Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. On behalf of the African Young Leaders Foundation, I am truly delighted to host you today for the very first session of our Youth Dialogue series. Since this is our first dialogue of the year, let me also take a moment to wish you all a meaningful and an impactful new year. A new year gives us more than just new dates on the calendar. It gives us a chance to reset our values, to rethink our leadership, and recommit ourselves to the kind of Africa we want to build. So today is not just another discussion, it is the beginning of a journey of learning and also responsibility as well as leadership. As you may already know about our dialogue series, or if today is your first time joining the AYLF Youth Dialogue series, this is platform which is designed as a safe and dynamic space where young people can engage critically with conversations shaping Africa's leadership, peace, governance, and development future. Our main goal at the end of each dialogue session is to foster conscious youth agency and to promote critical thinking, as well as to use this platform to advocate for actions on the issues we raise. As such, we invite you to take part actively, learn with us, share your thoughts and knowledge freely, and comment and ask questions you may have in the chat, and we will address it. So for us to begin today, we are looking at the topic. We are looking at the topic which is ethical and responsible leadership building, integrity, driven youth leaders for Africa future. And this topic is not accidental, it is intentional and it's deeply relevant. All of us are aware that our continent continues to experience leadership challenges, leaders who are corrupt, who abuse power, and who serve personal interests over the public good. So arguably, these are not only technical failures, and they are also failures of character and ethical values. Without ethics, leadership becomes domination, and without responsibility, power becomes dangerous. Currently, over 60% of our population is made up of youth, and the question is not whether we are able to lead our continent, but the question is what kind of leaders will we become? And history also shows that nation rises or fall based on the character of their leaders. So what then are the character traits needed to help us, to help our nation to rise? So now let me quickly invite our guest speaker, Comrade Pigbin Odimwengo, who is a mentor to many of us and the Director of Leadership and Capacity Building here at AYLF. Comrade, the floor is yours, and we would love for you to introduce yourself and perhaps in a minute or less, share briefly New Year's message to set the tone for our conversation ahead.
Thank you, comrade. Hope you can hear me. Kindly confirm.
Yes, please.
Yeah, greetings to all of you. I'm Comrade Pigeon Odimwengu, as been said by my brother. I'm Director of Leadership and Capacity. I am, of course, a multifaceted politician, Pan-African, presidential aspirant. All those are my titles. But above all, I am a progressive Pan-African who is interested towards the unification of Africa and the total liberation for Africa, so that we can be one Africa without the borders, without all those other things that divide us. That's who I am, and that's what I advocate for. But of course, I am still the coordinator also of the Consciousness Study Group, a dedicated philosophical class that studies the work of Kwame Nkrumah. So I do actively work on that, and then I'm also doing a lot on the Pan-African the history, reviews, documents, and all that it takes. But yes, I'm interested in leadership, and I believe and challenge young people that it's time we must take up the leadership of the continent. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much, comrade. And we are really happy to have you here. So to kick off this vital conversation, we want to ensure we are all building on the same foundation. So could you do us the honor of telling us what ethical and responsible leadership truly means? And more importantly, why this specific lens is so critical for Africa's development today?
Now, ethics, some of us who have studied say it comes from the word ethos. And it is either agreed principles that guide as community. It's either agreed values or principles that guide a community. That's what I can say. Therefore, ethics is not individualistic. It's from the angles of the community. So what are other people call them norms or the morals of a community? What do the community consider right or wrong? And this is different based on each community. For example, in a capitalist society and a socialist society, some of ethics might not be the same. So in our African context, our ethics must revolve around our so-called, for example, Ubuntu spirit, that we live as a community or a communal setup, that what you do and what I do is not for my personal benefit, but for the entire community. Our leadership must reflect the interests of the community. Our conduct must reflect and give honor to the community, not to ourselves. And we live as a product of the community, not as individuals. So then ethics must be what is right to the community, then inform what a person must do right. And as I've said, that is also varied. What is right in our context might not be right in their context. In African context, that we are missing who we are, or our Ubuntu spirit, or our communal aspect, it was not right for somebody to think of themselves alone at the expense of the community. It was not right for an individual to exploit, corrupt, and loot a lot from the community to be a billionaire and a trillionaire at the expense of a poor community. Therefore, anybody who pursues personal interests above communal or the societal interests is not right and does not fit within our context of our society and our community. Therefore, responsibility is to do what is ethical. It is a responsibility of every individual to lead in an ethical manner, in a manner that brings respect to yourself and to your community. Therefore, our biggest responsibility in leadership is to have or to be ethical leaders. Leaders who then lead in a moral way, in a way that is acceptable. And you know what is not acceptable in our community? Killing is not acceptable. We know leaders who engage in killing of our people, whether they order the killing of the young people like what happened in Kenya during the protests, or whether they kill for power, or whether they kill just to make money. So all these, you've seen them, and that's not acceptable in our community. Looting community resources is not acceptable in our community. It's not responsible leadership. And we know people who have looted and leaders who have looted funds and facilities that belong even to the hospitals, to the needy, to the poor, and even funds for road or water. That is not ethical, and that is not responsible leadership. So there are so many things that we can then pick up to when we talk about leadership, but we define leadership and ethics and responsibility on our lens as Africans, as a communal or as a societal or social society, rather than as a capitalist individualist society. That's what I can say, brother. Brother, you're muted. You're muted, comrade.
Sorry, sir. Thank you so much for the powerful definition you have given about ethics and conveying it in the sense that reflects our culture, our values, and what we as African team or name as ethics in our context. And this is very, very interesting. And I like the examples that you provided as well. So moving ahead and banking on what you have already mentioned concerning what ethics is in Africa context. Normally, when people get into office, we don't know what happened up there, but through or often instead of the leaders serving the interest of the people, they tend to serve their own interest. So why do this integrity and the responsibility to serve others often collapse the moment young leaders enter positions of power? Is it the system or is it the individual? And what causes this failure of integrity once power is attained?
Now, thank you. You see, integrity then demands that leaders carry themselves or conduct themselves with utmost respect in a manner that bring dignity and honor to the office they hold. Integrity demands that you do that which is right all the times. The word is all the times. Now, if you look at what you ask, why is it that when leaders get to power, they change? The key problem is a capitalist mentality that is in our people, which breed what you call individualism. Were these leaders actually pursuing their individual interest, or they were actually pursuing community or the societal interest in all their upbringing? Were you just, as a leader, before you became a leader, you are just pursuing the interest of making millions in the society? You are a billionaire and a millionaire. Have you used your millions and billions to build the society and improve the welfare of the people in the society? Or you're only coming because you have millions and billions and you bribe the citizens and the citizens vote you in and the citizens start asking, what changed? There's nothing that changed because you never changed. You are individualistic. You are not egalitarian. You are not having that Ubuntu spirit. You are being individual in a manner of pursuing only the interests of yourself. Nkrumah divide them into, you are being either liberal or conservative. You're not progressive to think about the welfare of everybody else. And many people, once they acquire money and be rich, the next thing they think about is to be politician, because they know that the only thing they need is to buy the people so that they can get elected. But it's high time that the individuals and the citizens must then be the leaders. Let a leader come among the ordinary citizens. But when the citizens judge leadership based on who has billions, then you think that that with billions or millions will come and then do what is right for you. He won't do it or she won't do it. So the first thing we must identify is the mental enslavement that has been corroded by capitalist system that makes us either be individualistic in our way of thinking. So don't think about anybody else. You are ready to pursue billions as you want. And that's why when they get to political leadership, see what they do. They want to amass all wealth for themselves, not for the community, not for the people voting them in, but for themselves. That's not who we are as Africans. That's not our practice as Africans. But the second thing again is when people must be rooted. I know the systems of leadership across the continent is so infested by these people who think about amassing and looting of wealth for themselves. And therefore, anybody who thinks that they are so clean enough when they get in, they get absorbed to the system. Some of them might be having good intention. Some of them never at all had any good interest for the public. So there's a systematic problem, but also it is about understanding yourself. Do you know yourself? They say, know thyself. If you know yourself, and I'll give an example that many people maybe may not like. Those who believe that they are religious, whether you are a pastor or you're the priest or you're a Qadi or you are a imam, even when you walk in a alcohol den in a pub or in a restaurant of alcohol, will you drink? Will you really forget your religious stand and drink? And if you cannot drink the alcohol, even when you find yourself in that setup, then why do you want to say that because you found yourself in a system in leadership that was corrupt, you became corrupt? That means you never had a strong standing philosophically or understanding yourself. That's why you got in and you absorbed. But a person with strong understanding and a strong standing point who know their self cannot claim that they went in and they were absorbed with the system. You only go there and change the system. You bring the light in the darkness. But when you say that you went in and the darkness absorbed you, probably you never had a light. So step back to those leaders as well. That's what I can say.
That's quite interesting, sir. And it is really, really sad that we tend to always mellow ourselves at the beginning, then immediately when we enter into the power, the time that the masses are expecting us to behave and serve them as we have already promised them, then we instead fail them. And for those of us who are listening and ready to lead differently, we don't want to repeat the mistake of the past. So what are the daily practical habits that in your experience are needed to build a character that lasts and that can also help us to really be leaders who have integrity and responsible?
Yes, thank you. I'll say the biggest thing we must work on is to liberate our minds. What type of a leader do we want? What type of a leader makes sense to us? What type of a leader do we want to be? Ask yourself that question. Then when you get the answer, it starts directing you. For example, I'll give you a typical example. I have been wanting and I still want to be a president for my country, Kenya, and I'll still go for it. And because I've defined what I want and who I want to be, I start moving and walking that direction even before I became that leader. So I start saying, okay, it's not good for me to be indulged too much in drinking or alcohol, not because of a religious stand, but because what I think it can protect my leadership. Because I know maybe it might miss then it can bring some misjudgment on how I look at people. And sometimes it may make me the society to look at me as not somebody that is straightforward or something like that. I know again that because of what I want to be, it's very important that I check on how I relate with other opposite genders. So I don't want to be a man who will be in the community said is what they call humanizer, but doesn't mean I hate women, but I want to respect myself. And I do this not because I fear what people say. It's because I have to respect myself so that I be a respectable person in the community. If you look at the book of Marcus Garvey, Message to the People, there's a lot chunk of that which Marcus Garvey gave to young people now they should be leaders. You must look neat. Of course, neat doesn't mean you must have a short haircut. Even in our so-called dreadlocks, we are neat. It's in our culture, that's who we are. Neatness does not mean sometimes that you must buy expensive things, but even if you're putting the cheap things, you must just look organized. You must be well read. So read a lot about the interests of leadership. Read about the community. Read about some other things. Inform yourself. Malcolm X says the dangerous person to the system is the person who has undergone self-education. The person who has self-educated himself or herself. Because the education system, the normal education system, is not meant for you to be liberated. It's meant for you to be assimilated in the process so that you conform to the system, so that you look at the system. The education system is meant for you to be a perfect product of what they want. So a person who takes an initiative to self-educate themselves through reading and the rest, it's dangerous to the system, because then the system do not control their thinking, you see. There are people who have read and understand beyond. But also, Marcus says, do not be a person of debt. It doesn't mean that you cannot take debt, but don't be a person who own everybody in the community. They will start speaking wrong about you. You see? Do not be a person who is just so violent in the community. They say that is not a right leader. Be a person who carry yourself with what you call dignity. Irrespective of your age, respect the elders in the community. Know them where they are. Give them and understand them. Do not portray that you're the smartest in the community, but be ready to learn with the people. Walk the journey of the people to liberate them. Walk with them as a person affected, but don't see yourself as a messiah sent to them. So these are few things that we must do as young leaders, so that we ground ourselves. There's I think there's a book by Walter Ron saying, written, Grounding Myself with My Brothers, Grounding with Brothers. You need to ground yourself with the people, understand their plight, walk with them, be them, so that they can understand you and they can walk you. Your problems and the problems they go through must be united. What Marcus, I think, is what also Thomas Sankara says, the mass orientation. So you must be part of the masses in terms of their problems, but study them and know what can happen. But above all, offer a solution. And that solution must be guided with what the community thinks. So help the community shape the solution. They know what they want, but be part of them. You must then dare to do. You must be courageous enough to go, contest, and fail, but never change who you are just to fit in the process. You better lose, but not lose yourself. The greatest thing to the youngest people and young leaders is to guard your reputation. One day it might pay off. No matter how much you have, if you don't have a good reputation, and what the African proverb saying, a good name is better than diamonds. Good name make good leaders. Good money sometimes don't make good leaders, but good name make good leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful words you have given us so much to reflect on. And there is this thing, there are people who keeps ready in leadership position. Our principal move ahead. And Comrade, there are leaders also who are already in position, in high ranking positions. And in fact, they have the character, they have the ethical principles, but it seems they are fighting against system that are rotten to their fault that cannot be changed. And those in such situation, what ways do you have for them? What thing do you think they can do differently to make them stand out, or to at least make the people must see that this person is trying, but the system that he is in is not easy, or she is really working hard, but she is in a system that is suppressing everything. And therefore, when we are counting the rotten ones, he or she also end up being part of the rotten people, despite he or she trying. So what do you have to say concerning this, and what can these individuals really do to emancipate themselves and others? Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. I'll say that we don't need to reform the system. We need to build a system. So when the system we are in is not working, we must build a new system and start building structures surrounding you. you start building the leadership you want, the network you want, the style you want. Then slowly by slowly, we will replace that system with a new system. Kwame Nkrumah says revolution is the fight against the old, but also the competition for the new. When the system do not work for us, we build system that work for us. We don't try to fit to such system. So let's struggle and spend our time to build system that work for us rather than keeping on fighting system that do not work for us. The best way to replace something is to build a new thing. But when you're fighting something, when you don't have an alternative of what you want, you spend all your time just fighting it and don't build anything. So we must start building a new system, a new type of leadership that everybody will embrace and come for, rather than spending much of our effort every day trying to fight this system. To bring this system down is to create a new system. We don't need to fit. This system cannot be reformed. This system cannot be repaired. This system has just to be replaced with a new system. So work out on how you start building new style around you. How do you engage with your citizenry? How do you conduct your legislative role? How do you approach public interest? Build a new system. Then the new system will be in the DNA of the people, and the people will see it as a better option, and then walk away from that other system. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much, comrade. And this is quite interesting. You repeatedly mention about building a new system, and we know how hard it is to start a new system, and in fact it's not going to be easy. And I really understand when you say we should build a new system, are you insinuating that we should set up a new governance against the government which is in power? And how are we even going to do that? How are we going to start a new system from what is already in place if we are not taking part of the system to make it work? Then if we want to start a new system, how are we going to start a new system from the main system which is already there? I'm afraid that maybe I'm the one thinking you are telling us to start our new political party and start also doing things that the government, what we think the leaders or the government are not doing, then we start doing it. Is that what you are trying to say by building a new system? Or when you say building a new system, what does this entails?
You see, the current system work and supported by the minority. The few people who call themselves the dynasties and the systems, you are here, the deep states. But Nkrumah reminds us that the revolution belongs to the masses. The biggest thing we need is to start educating the masses and re-educating the masses. A conscious masses is more important than unconscious masses. But this system don't want the masses to be conscious. We have the majority. This system do not work for the benefit of the majority. Even if you go to your village today and ask how many everybody there who like this system, nobody likes it. But who is ready to build a new one? Also, nobody wants to build a new one. You see? So the moment the public apathy is that the people do not like how government run, how politics is done, that's not to their interest. You must start by then taking it to their interest. What is then the alternative? Because it doesn't mean that we lack alternative. The fact that you want to conform to the system means that you lack an alternative. We don't lack an alternative. We are alternative leaders. But do we know what leadership are we offering? So do we know what we want? That's the most important thing. Do we know the type of leadership we want to work for us? Until we know that, we cannot direct the masses. And until the masses know that, we cannot have what we want. I'll give you a typical example, my brother. It's not actually a system or a new system. When you go to Rwanda today, of course, I'm not talking of the leadership style of President Kagame. But do you see how people treat the environment? Do you see how they make the environment clean? What does it take? It's just simple policy and mindset. A leader comes in, says from today moving forward, there's no littering the compounds or the environment, and he puts sets up where people can put whatever the waste they have, and people follow. It works perfectly. You don't have anything else. There's some part of the city or the country where the traffic lights, when it says stop, you find people stopping without police officer. It happens here in Africa, parts of Africa. The vehicle stops. And the light says move, the vehicles move in the continent without a police officer. There are people who have gone and actually show the way on what needs to be done. Look at Magufuli, for example. Magufuli showed the type of leadership he wanted for his country, and it worked. He just told people from today moving forward, there's no corruption in my government. There's no doing this and this. And if I find you doing this and this, you walk out. And it worked. Look at what is happening in Burkina Faso and the rest. People are starting to support the president because they're seeing there's a change. But if that president, some 5 years ago, if that president was to come in the ballot process, for example, if Traore was to be on the ballot for presidency 5 years ago, they could have not voted him. But when he comes in and he says, no, we cannot move like this. We have to do this, and do this. The people follow. The people will always follow the leader. If you have a leader who has right mentality and the right thing to do, the people will do it. If you have a leader who want to conform to the system, the people will conform to the system. You see? We have leaders who have come and shown the way and people followed. So it's not that even you're going to start from a scratch. To change the mind of the people is simple. Look, for example, in China. In China, if you're corrupt, it's a serious offense for you. But in Africa, even the constitution says that you're finding corruption, what should happen? The constitution says it, but how many people are arrested? Now, do you blame the system for that? Or the constitution? You blame the leaders in power. They're not ready to do that because they're also corrupt. Exactly. What did the constitution say? So what happens is that we must take leadership role. The people are ready for change. We must be ready to lead that change. But before we lead it, we must know what we want and who we are and must define our true north. If we don't know who we are or what we stand for everything. And then the people will also stand for everything. And that's how we conform to their system. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much, Comrade. That is very, very powerful. And in fact, I enjoy this a lot. And looking at currently in Africa, can we name some African leaders, both past and present, whose leadership reflected integrity and transformation? And maybe this can help the young ones to also learn from them and also get new insight on how they can position themselves as a leader. And if you can add something that really separate these leaders from other leaders, and why you think their life really reflected a leader who was having the interest of the people at heart, or who is having the interest of the people at heart, and why you think we should look up to that person. That would really help us to also follow up with them and learn from their ways so that we can all rise up together.
Thank you, comrade. I will not define whether they are so-called integrity or so, but what I'll define is the leaders that actually put the welfare of the people in front than their welfare. The leaders who thought to develop and improve the livelihood of the Africans. Because you see, integrity, ethics, and responsibility is meaningless if it is not translated on how it can improve your welfare as a person. How, as the citizens, you can progress, have what on the table, and develop. You see? Therefore, there are leaders who have actually done that. I'll give you the typical example. Look at what Kwame Nkrumah did for Ghana. You can mention projects he put in place to help change the welfare of the people. Look at them. Kwame Nkrumah even died without a house. He never owned a home. And you know that. But how many years did he serve? without a home. Today, we have members of parliament who have mansions and palaces, and they call them palaces or mansions all over. But this is a president who served his country and even forgot about building his home. And you can say that through the development he brought to improve the people, the dams, the projects, the institutions, and all that. Look at Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara actually even sold the presidential vehicle and decided to reduce the cost of his presidency. These are leaders who never wanted to be treated as kings and honorables and excellencies, but they decided to go in the street. Look at the programs Thomas Sankara introduced in Burkina Faso for 3 years. Revolutionize the society. Look at Patrice Lumumba, what he was trying to follow for the people of Congo, to self-define themselves and defend themselves. They never lived for long, but they brought the changes that the people want. Look at what Muammar Gaddafi did for Libya. Look at what he did. Change the whole country where people could not pay school fee, people could be earning, people could get money without paying taxes and all these things. That is the leader we want. Irrespective of other aspects you want to say. And beyond that, he invested the money for his country to help build African Union. Look at leaders like Magufuli. Look at what he did in his short years. Try to transform his country completely. You see? Try to improve the welfare of his people completely. You see? So there are leaders in the continent I can mention, both from the independence, post-independence, and even the current systems that have actually gone ahead. Look, for example, when people talk of Traore, look at what he has done for 3 years or 4 years. Something that many presidents or many countries have not achieved in 60 years. Is doing it in 3 or 4 years for the welfare of the people. You're not hearing that Traore has built his big mansion somewhere. Traore has bought a yard somewhere. No. You hear Traore has opened a tomato factory somewhere. Traore has built this shop somewhere. You see, those are the leaders we must think. The leaders who put the interests of the people at heart and their interests at a distance. Not the leaders who put their interests. Like, I'll give you a typical example. Look at my President William Ruto. If you look at history, you realize he have a big farm somewhere, ranches of land somewhere, he's buying a yacht somewhere, he's having a mansion somewhere. Look at Museveni. You'll be told he's having this chunk of land somewhere, he's having that business, it's his business, his wife is somewhere, the daughter is in the government. Those are not the leaders we want. We want the leaders who put the welfare of the people first and their interests later. So those are a few examples of leaders you can look at. But the typical criteria that I want you to look at for you to define the leader you want, look at the leader who then put the interests of the people first. Leader who developed his country. Leader who developed his people at his expense. Not leaders who became billionaires and millionaires when they were elected. Not leaders who own chunks of lands and tracts of what. No, leaders who valued their people are leaders we want to emulate. Because we as Africans live as a communal society, not as individuals. And individualism is corruption of capitalism and westernized educational setup. Remember one thing in Africa, one proverb I'll end up saying, the Swahili proverb says, mtu ni watu. A person is a people. So you must realize that the people makes you who you are. And therefore, it's always your responsibility as a leader to serve the people, not to serve yourself. Thank you.
Wow. That's so interesting to hear. And thank you so much. I would like to quickly check on our YouTube and also read some comments from there. And first of all, thank you to those who join us on YouTube. I believe there will be a lot of people who will still watch the video after this session. I've seen a comment from Chuck Donenciata, who is also the AYLF president for Malawi. He said that ethical leadership has been thrown out the window for most of our African leaders. Hence, most of our problems remain unsolved. And this is very true if you look at our current African countries, and doing what is right all the time is indeed the key to integrity in leadership. And doing what is right does not mean you should do it only when people are watching you, even when nobody is watching you. You should also do what is right at all times. So now moving ahead, Mr. Comrade, I really appreciate your time a lot. And in fact, we are getting to the end of our discussion. And I cannot let you go without giving us a parting shot, a way that you feel this is what you are putting in our mind or what you want us to take home, even if we we want to forget everything that you have mentioned today, something that should stick with us or something that you want us to have in our mind as young leaders who are listening today and who want to build the Africa we all dream of. So please take the floor and give us your parting shot.
Thank you, comrade. I'll part my conversation with a letter from Fanon. Fanon writes a letter to the African youth. Now, the letter is called Letter to the Youth of Africa. And this letter of Fanon is found in his collections called Towards the African Revolution. It was done in 1964. Actually, the edition is 1964, but the letter was done in 1958. Now, Fanon is actually extending appeal to us as young people of Africa. And he says a very important thing. Fanon says that the African youth are uniquely positioned agents of change because we are less compromised by the neocolonial or colonial orders, less tainted, and we have a full potential energy. We, the youth, must reject assimilation and false promises of neocolonialism in this context. And they have their historical mission as a youth that we must recognize the true nature of the struggle we have as people of Africa and avoid the betrayal through apathy or reformism. And we must actively participate in the completing the decolonization of Africa. Fanon then ends by stressing this, that the revolution must address the economic exploitation, the cultural alienation, and the psychological liberation. We must free our minds from colonial complexes. And then he actually closes his letter by saying that the youth must arise to the occasion. We must fulfill our generational mission, and we must build a future that is free from domination. That will be my parting shot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, comrade. You have really given us a powerful parting shot, and you have truly challenged us, the youth, to arise to the occasion and fulfill our generational needs. In fact, this is really true, and this is what we look forward to achieve in Africa. And I believe that you cannot do it alone. It is all of us doing it side by side is how we rise together. So without saying much, I would like to thank all those who joined us today. It has been a wonderful conversation, and this is not going to be the end of this conversation. We will come back to it again, looking at it from a different angle. And we want to also thank our speaker for his time. I know he is a very busy person. For him to dedicate this time for us, it really means a lot to us today. And this is just a beginning. I believe I will still have his time again. And I'm happy that whenever I call upon him, he really gives me his time. So I'm very sure that I will still get him again. So please, for more updates and to stay involved in our upcoming sessions, please ensure that you follow our official social media pages at African Young Leaders Foundation. He quoted so many books, and maybe you may be interested in some of them. I beseech you to connect with him via social media. His name is Comrade Pigbin Odimwengu on all social media platform. And if you write to me also, I can get his contact details, information for him for you to connect with him. And if you need mentorship too, you can also follow his Concisism class theory. And me, the host for today, my name is Patrick Kofi Benyi. Since the since last year and the beginning of this year, I did not change my name, and I'm still the public relation officer for this noble organization. It has been a pleasure hosting the first session of our dialogue series, and you can also connect with me personally on all social media platforms as Kofi. On our AYLF website, you can get our email contact and everything there to write to us anything that you may want to discuss or share with us. Until our next dialogue series, let's keep the conversation alive and the integrity high. I want to take this time to wish each and every one of you, wherever you are watching, if it's afternoon, if it's morning, if it's evening, a wonderful time and a peaceful day with you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Mr. Pigbin, for the wonderful time with us. Thank you. The end of our dialogue series. In this.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, yeah, the session, but I'm finding it difficult to end the live. I mean, let me make you the. Oh, you are the host, or it's me? Is it me or?
No, you should be the co-host. Oh,
Oh no, I'm the main
you're the
host. Let me
host.
make you the host so that you can end it for me. I don't really know what is happening.
Got it. Oh, um, I'm unable to see it here.
Even me, yeah. Well, anyway, you can make